Head over to miniaturemarket.com where they have thousands of board games at discounted prices, and you can sign up for product alerts. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today I'm going to be going over my top 5 reprints of 2022. Now, interesting thing to say here is that this list, even though it's in a numerical order, isn't necessarily in an order of like which game do I like best. In this specific list, it's the one that I feel like, I want to tell you that it's been reprinted, and then also the list it gets better and better as the more and more things they did to the reprint. So number 1 or 2 maybe might not be the one I like the best in this list, but it might be the one I feel like, wow, they really did so much to this game. All these games are great, and now they're available again, so here we go.
Number 5.
The first one is Zillionaires Road Trip USA. This was originally printed as a game of 49, which was my family game year back in, I believe, 2014. This is a very fun game where it's like Gamer Connect 4. You're trying to get 4 squares in a row to get your chips on them. How you get them is you bid. But the interesting thing is as you bid, statistically about every 5th card that comes up for a space to bid, it's going to be a wild where whoever wins that can kind of go on open different spaces on the board, but everybody gets money, $7, for every chip they have on the board. So it's kind of like a little engine building game where you're getting chips out, hoping to get a bunch of payouts, getting money, trying to find the right time, trying to upbid people. It's awesome. The game itself is awesome. I really like this version because it has interesting, quirky, real places in America that have funny, weird names, and there's actually a flyer that tells you about these. So this game, actually I was just at Target yesterday doing some Christmas shopping and I saw it there. But it's available in many different places as well. It's a really fun game, and I think they made the game look better, and it's kind of more fun to be betting over a place than just a number. So I actually like it better theme-wise than Game of 49. But it's the same game, and it's awesome, and now it's back out in wide distribution. So it's Zillionaires Road Trip USA.
Number 4.
Now this is a deduction game which originally came out as a game called Think Straight, but it had a small distribution out in Europe, and the production on that thing was awful. Worse than most Kickstarter prototypes I get these days. It was like a paper mat with crappy cards and stupid stands. It was awful. The production was awful, but the game was so good. It still made lots of my lists over the last couple of years because the deduction in this game is awesome. It was just recently reprinted as The Lost Code. This is done by Mojito Studios, the same people that redid the Cleopatra Society of Architects game. And this deduction game is amazing. Now the new theme is kind of cool. It's kind of like they got dragons and temples and stuff like that you're going through. But essentially it's an abstract deduction game. This is pure logic and deduction where everyone has numbers out in front of themselves that you can't see your own numbers. You're trying to guess your own numbers. Similar to say like Code 777, a very classic deduction game. This game way blows that older game out in the water. They took that idea concept and just took it in a much better direction. This replaced Code 777 for me. So you're trying to find out your numbers in front of you, and you'll do this by each round some dice are rolled of certain colors, and everyone is trying to figure out what numbers are in front of themselves. So for the round it might be like blue, blue, yellow. So you're trying to figure out what is my blue number plus that same blue number plus yellow. What is it? Is it 14? Is it 21? And you get to select, and you're guessing at first, but you're taking a wheel that will give you a range. The larger the range, the less points you'll get if you're right. The shorter the range, the less likely you're going to be right, at least in the early game, the more points you'll get. It's very interesting because over the course of the game, you're starting wide, but you're kind of narrowing in what you have. But if you guess wrong, you actually have to get rid of a number, which means you've learned something, but then you put a new number out and everyone else learns something too. It's really clever. Sometimes you got to learn things where you're like, I knew this, and now I have to get rid of something that I knew, and I kind of have to like start over on that color. Also, the end of the game has a really interesting press your luck mechanism where like you can guess a certain amount of numbers. Like yellow, I think for sure it's 5, I'm gonna say 5. Green, I think it's 5 or 6. A 50% chance I can guess on one of those, or I can guess on both. If I guess just one of them and get it right, I'll get more points. If I guess both and I get it right, I'll get less points, but if I get it wrong, I lose points. Very interesting, tense-filled ending with a little bit of pressure luck depending on how much deduction you've got. This is one of the best deduction games ever, honestly. The Lost Code.
Number 3.
This next one is Campaign Trail. This was reprinted by Gray Fox Games. Originally it was Cosmac Wombat Games. This game won Strategy Game of the Year for me when it originally came out, which I don't remember the exact year. But it just came out this year. It finally fulfilled the Kickstarter. And this was reprinted and I like what they did here. Now I need to put a caveat here is I loved this game so much I did give some input on what things I would have changed in the game. They may or may not have taken some of those things into account. But I know that they kind of redeveloped some of the cards that were not quite balanced or not quite perfect. They may have made the game too long, things like that. But they also did something that I really wanted them to do, which was they changed the end game, where now there's actually some secret things that you're going for that will give you some end game votes. I love that. The only problem I ever had with the game was what they did with the end game. There really wasn't anything there, and it was very, I didn't like the ending of the game. So they fixed that, which is awesome. Plus they added the Green Party expansion, which allows you to now play 4 players individually, where before you could play 1 versus 1, 2 versus 2 in teams. You could play 1 versus 1, 3 players playing against each other, but you can never play 4 players against each other. There's always 2 versus 2 in teams. Well, now you have the option to play in 4 players by themselves or still in 2 and 2 teams. So that's kind of cool. They added a different way to play the game. And they added some more cards and stuff in that. So they fixed the end game a lot. They changed it. They added cards. They redeveloped cards. They did a lot to the game to make an excellent game even better. It is a sort of, it's basically an abstract area control game where you're fighting for majorities of states and winning points, which are electoral college votes. The game is political from theme, but there's nothing in the game that's political at all. It's just very abstract, and that's a positive probably for most of you. It's really awesome. If you like area control games, if you like multi-use cards, Campaign Trail's awesome, and this is by far the best version of it.
Number 2.
This next one is Mad King Ludwig, or Castles of Mad King Ludwig, I should say, from Bezier Games. Now, when this game originally came out, it was very highly regarded, but it had a lot of negative thoughts from many people online about the art and the graphic design. Well, Bezier Games was a smaller beginner publisher then relative to where they are now. And the game has been very successful despite that, and so they put in what they did with the Suburbia reprint a couple years ago, which they redid all the graphic and design and art and everything. It looked so beautiful. They did that same treatment to this collector's edition of Mad King Ludwig, and man, wow, they did a lot to it, and it just looks so awesome. All the new room design, all the new graphic design, they redid everything. It looks so, so nice. New components they did. They added a lot of expansions all together. And there is a humongous colossal version available, which you kind of need 2 tables to play, 1 to play on and 1 to hold all the tiles and stuff. But the art is so cool in that one that I can't go back playing the regular version anymore. It's just, you see all the details in there. So they changed it. And even in one of the expansions has even cooler components with big, huge towers that just look awesome. Oh man, they even have like a new bonus that you get with the towers. It's awesome. They changed the gameplay amazingly. They changed all the graphic design amazingly. The presence and the look and feel of this game. The presentation of this game's off the charts. So, Castles of Mad King Ludwig Collector's Edition. There's the Royal version, and then there's also it comes with like poker chip style things for tokens. But then the Colossal version, ooh baby, this new version's awesome. If you've never played this is the one to get. If you have the old one, this is the one to get. It's awesome. Castles of Mad King Ludwig, both either the Collector's Edition with the Royal or the Colossal version if you go crazy.
Number 1.
Now, before we get to the headliner for this video, I wanted to let you know that if you like my content, you can now get exclusive content as I just launched a Patreon campaign where you can see my first impressions on games days or weeks before the reviews, or even tons of games that never do get a featured review. You can vote on which games I'm going to review, watch me open packages from publishers as I guess what's in there, and you'll get access to my videos and an audio podcast of those videos a day before they go public. And if this sounds interesting to you, you can enjoy this exclusive content all while supporting me and the channel at patreon.com/GameBoyGeek. All right, so now we have my reprint of the year. And this is a game that was out many years ago, actually, and it was redone in both artwork and mechanisms and a lot of things in this. This is Libertalia Winds of Galecrest from Stonemaier Games. Libertalia Winds of Galecrest is a tactical card game for 1 to 6 players where you'll be using different character cards and their abilities to gain doubloons, which will turn into points in your treasure chest. Players start with exactly the same cards and will play them secretly and then put them in order low to high. And certain abilities are going to resolve, like the Brute beating up the top person, which is the cook. They're gone. And going high to low, those characters are going to be able to draft different loot for that day, with some of them giving you lots of money at the end of the round if you still have it. Other ones allow you to affect other players, like discarding another player from that island. You can also play on a stormy side of the board that has much more meaner abilities. You can even customize those to your group's liking by using these tiles as well, playing with the slightly nicer abilities even on the meaner board. Some abilities might gain you things like doubloons at the end of each turn, and some might get you some things at the end of the voyage, which is at the round. Of course, these will as well. You're trying to convert these doubloons into points and have the most points at the end of the game, at the end of 3 voyages. I loved the original Libertalia. I loved it. It had like this, Pirates of the Caribbean looking theme. It was just sort of a little darkish, but it was awesome. Great tactical card game. There was a really wonky tiebreaker system in there that never really worked well. I wish there were more cards, things like that. So the original I really liked a lot. When this version came out, this new version this year, oh my gosh, it's amazing. They added a ton of new cards. They kept a lot of the abilities the same, but they added some new ones. They completely and overhauled the tiebreaker mechanism with reputation. And some cards are good for you when you have high reputation. Some of them are good for you when you have low reputation, depending on the card you play. And in this version, the loot isn't the same thing every game. You can decide whether you want to play a base game or like a pretty mean game or anything in between. You have the ability to do that. So they did a ton of things to rework this game. They also completely reworked the 2-player version of this, and they also did their Automa solo version here. So this is the best version of Libertalia by far. It's not even close. But the game itself was already awesome, and now it's even better. It's just so good. The fact that everyone has the same 6 cards that they're adding to their hand, and you're using some of these, but you don't use all of them. But you get new cards in future rounds. So at the beginning, you all have the same exact hand, which is random every game, but you all have the same hand. And as the rounds go on, your hands get slightly different. It's just such a clever thing, and the tactical card play, and the combos that you're trying to set up, and the timing of things, and the timing of when things trigger, and how to go for things for different things. I like games that have unlimited replayability. This game has it. Fantastic tactical card game that is made way better than it used to be. Libertalia Winds of Galecrest. All right, I hope that helped you put some games on your radar that maybe you had heard about in the past, maybe you had played in the past, and you're like, oh, there's a new version, or oh, I always wanted that, but it's out of print, but now I can get it. I hope this helped you find some new games that you might want to get a hold of. This has been the Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships to board games, helping you on the next one you'll love. Game Toppers not only transforms your existing table to a high-quality gaming solution, they now offer full leg kits and dining cover solutions for the full table application. Paired with their amazing, thematic, premium stitch edge mats from noted board game artists like Vincent Dutray, collapsible cup holders, and really cool accessories, it's a complete system that upgrades every game you play. Go to GameToppersLLC.com or click the link below to late pledge for their latest Game Topper 3.5 Kickstarter campaign.